Well, we'll wait to hear from Draghi tomorrow. In the meantime, looking behind you there, the DAX seem to be doing very well. However, German manufacturing orders is down today unexpectedly. Now, what key sectors would you blame for this, and what is on the horizon?
That definitely was a bit of a surprise. We saw a drop of 0.7% in July, so that undershot forecasts of a gain of 0.3%. So the overall drop, according to the data, was caused by a drop in orders for consumer goods, but also intermediate and capital goods, meaning goods used to produce other goods. Now, there are assorted reasons for that. Summer holidays could be part of it, but the thing that investors were really watching out for was whether the strong euro had anything to do with this drop. You know, perhaps businesses abroad were scared off by placing orders in Germany after seeing unfavorable exchange rates. But that doesn't actually seem to have been the case. And we say this because we see that data from outside the eurozone, we saw that it went up against the trend. We saw orders outside the block of 19 countries go up. It's really domestic demand that has been flagging. So that isn't to say that the euro won't affect the order books in the months to come, but for now the investors don't seem all that worried. It also has to be said that these figures are coming on the back of more positive data out of the Eurozone and Germany, like GDP and jobs figures. So this drop in manufacturing orders is really being seen as more like a fluke.
And let's look at tax reform sound bites of U.S. President Donald Trump. Does Europe really care?
Well, I suppose the world cares in the sense that the U.S. is often seen as an agenda-setting power. As such, his moves are also being closely watched in Europe. And they are worried here over a lot of aspects about what Donald Trump is trying to do in terms of the tax overhaul. Now, of course, one of the main objectives of this tax reduction for corporations is to get at the money that corporations may have stashed abroad in order to evade taxes at home and to try and get them to reinvest that money in expanding their businesses in the U.S., so domestically, and also creating more jobs. And in Donald Trump's world, that could make America great again. But historically speaking, that hasn't usually been what happens when the government decides to cut taxes for corporations. Instead, that money is usually used for share buybacks or for paying out investor and shareholder dividends. So really what you've done there is incentivize tax evasion. And also, there are also rising doubts as to whether this is something that Trump can even get done. Remember that he's facing important deadlines by the end of the month. He has to raise a debt ceiling. He has to pass a spending bill. So market watchers have been saying more recently that Congress is probably only going to be able to churn out a limited tax rate reduction for corporations. So it's being watched here in the sense that what Donald Trump is important, but expectations are also very low that he'll get anything significant done.
Well, he will have to do a lot to convince Congress to dance to his tunes. Thank you very much, Janelle, for your time. I'll move on now to the U.S., where the stock index futures pointed to a lower open today as geopolitical concerns surrounding North Korea's relationship with the West amplified jitters in market trading. Speaking of data, factory orders are set to be released at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, while the U.S. Treasury will auction for separate bills. And in Asia, the stock market there declined today following the fall on Wall Street as investors remain jittery about North Korea. Japan's Nikkei 225 edged down 0.14%, with financials and automakers ending the session lower across the Korean Strait. The Kospi closed lower for the fifth consecutive session. The index slipped 0.29%. The Hang Seng index was down 0.64%, but mainland markets closed higher. The Shanghai Composite tacked on 0.05%, and the Shenzhen Composite gained 0.37%. And the reputations of the U.S. and UK as good places to live and work are in free fall among some of the world's most mobile and cosmopolitan people. Our survey, conducted by Internations, a network of 2.8 million experts based in Munich shows that since last year's presidential and Brexit votes, both the US and Britain are perceived as less friendly to foreigners and less politically stable. The survey also shows the two countries' quality of life is declining by other measures, especially the affordability of childcare and healthcare in the US and housing in the UK. The Expert Insider Survey is conducted each year by Internations. It aims to capture the views of millions of executives, skilled workers, students and retirees who live outside the country where they grew up. The top-ranked country in 2017 is Bahrain, given high marks by its experts as a place to work and raise a family and for making foreigners feel welcomed. Greece is at the very bottom of the list, weighed down by the country's economic problems, followed by Kuwait and then Nigeria. Now, talking about Nigeria, unemployed and facing a lack of opportunities, a group of young people have started a shoemaking business in Nigeria's northern city, Yola. The young entrepreneurs say they were inspired after a government decision to promote and encourage the production and consumption of locally made products as a way of improving the economy.
Despite a high youth unemployment caused by economic, political woes and an active insurgency in northern Nigeria, young entrepreneurs are finding ways to make use of limited resources to make a living. Official figures suggest 1 in every 2 15 to 24-year-olds are out of work. When Joshua Samuel set up his shoemaking business in the northeastern city of Yola 20 years ago, Nigeria's Islamist group Boko Haram was not in existence. But in the last 8 years, Boko Haram has spread a reign of terror in northern Nigeria and neighboring countries and has left at least 20,000 dead and sparked one of the largest humanitarian crises in the world, with tens of thousands already in famine-like conditions, according to the United Nations. The celebration says entrepreneurship is a way out for him and others who are eager to help reduce the number of unemployed people.
The insurgents, a lot of business crippled, but some people are trying to bring up themselves very well. And the economy will not build itself. It's actually we that will build the economy. Even if insurgents has affected and destroyed the economy, we will still be the ones to build it. And how are we going to build it? By getting 1 or 2 jobs done. So imagine now I open my own fashion brand and I employed 5 people. I've affected the economy positively. At least 5 people are out of unemployment. And if another person started another thing and employed maybe 2 people, before you get to know it, there are jobs everywhere.
A pair of shoes sells between $4 and $8.
When we come back after the break, we will go to South Africa and talk more on the just released GDP numbers. To stay with us.